It's summer, at least it is when I'm recording this, and I thought it might be helpful to give some travel tips through the lens of a financial planner. I'm Stephen Neely, certified financial planner with Fortress Capital Advisors, and today I'm going to give you 8 tips that are going to save you money and allow you to have a better travel experience wherever you go this summer, especially if you like to travel abroad. Travel is kind of a thing that me and my family like to do, so I have a lot of experience in this arena, and I'm always on the lookout for ways that we can either save money or have a better experience for the same price. So I hope to pass along some of what I've learned to you today in this video. So tip number 1, get a travel credit card. I know what Dave Ramsey says about credit cards, and it's just stupid advice, okay? Yes, obviously, duh. If you have problems with spending, then just avoid using credit cards. But if you have any kind of self-control at all, you are literally leaving free money on the table, and it's just stupid to do that. I find with us, we routinely save more than $1,000 a year by using a travel credit card that we can go and then, spend on travel, which is something that we really love to do as a family. You need to evaluate these cards based on your lifestyle. They all kind of offer different types of perks, and there's really no one that I'm going to say is clearly better than another because it's going to kind of depend on how you spend, number 1, and then how you travel, number 2. We use the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, and I'm not making any kind of endorsement for that. It happens to just work for us based on our spending and travel habits. A couple of the nice perks that you get with it, you get airport lounge access through Priority Pass. They give you rental car insurance. There's trip cancellation insurance. And they have like special deals sometimes for hotels and other things. And then there's no foreign transaction fee when you use it abroad, which is pretty awesome. We've used kind of all of the major travel credit cards. Amex Platinum card's another really good one. I would say like the Centurion lounges that you have access to are definitely better than the Priority Pass. But overall, for us, the other perks sort of work out better, which is why we use Chase. But, what you need to do is evaluate your own spending, because some of these it's like, well, you get 5x back on dining out. Well, if you never dine out, then you might just want to get a straight card that gives you like a 2% back, for example. You also need to weigh how much the fees are. Like the top line ones like Chase Sapphire Reserve and the Amex Platinum, those are going to run you about $500 a year. Now, right off the bat, at least with the Chase, you get a $350 a year travel credit, which I know we're going to use regardless. So that to me isn't a real cost. And then with the airport lounge access and all of these other things, to me, it's easily worth it because I go, well, we only have to use it a few times to make up for the cost of the airport lounge, and it's about a better travel experience. That might not be the case for you, so you need to weigh the pros and cons, and maybe you want to get a straight 2% cash back and then use that just to offset whatever cost of travel that you may have. Regardless, it's a no-brainer unless you have no self-control and you can't pay it off every month, and so you should definitely be taking advantage of this. Number 2, I would avoid using the aggregator third-party sites like Expedia to book travel. I know that you can't always avoid that, but what I find in general is that I'll use those aggregator sites, look for good prices on flights or hotels, whatever it is. And then when I find it, and let's say I find the hotel, then I just go directly to that hotel, and I can usually find the same price that I found on the aggregator sites. Now, why go through that hassle? The reason is that if you need to change anything, or even worse, if there's a problem with your travel and you've booked through one of these sites like Expedia, it is going to be a nightmare changing it or especially getting a refund. And so what I've found in my experience is just much better to go direct. Then if you want to upgrade your room, whatever it is, you're going to be able to do that. And you can't through Expedia. I'll give you an example. One time we were in Vietnam and we had flown from another country, and then we went to an island in Vietnam, and then we went back to Saigon, and then we were returning back from Saigon. And suddenly, in between all this travel, Expedia had changed my ticket to a child ticket. And Vietnam Air wouldn't accept that, and Expedia wanted nothing to do with it. So I had to pay for a brand new ticket out of pocket. Then I get back home and I have to spend hours and hours dealing with Expedia, who didn't even care and shifted blame over and over again. But I just dug my heels in, and finally they admitted their mistake and they refunded me. But they were completely unapologetic about it. And I could just say to you, be careful about using them. I think you suck, Expedia, and I try never to use them if I can avoid it. Number 3, skip the rental car insurance. Anytime you get a rental car, they are going to bombard you with opportunities to use their insurance, and they're going to try to scare you into paying for that. And that can add up to, depending on how long you rent your car, for another $100 or $200 onto your trip that you could use elsewhere. The reason I tell you not to get it is that the majority of time, your own auto insurance is going to cover car rentals. So you just need to look that up and make sure that you are covered, and then you're not going to have to waste your money on the car rental insurance. And here again is another benefit about having these specific travel-related credit cards. If you book using one of these travel cards, oftentimes, like I know that's the case with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, they actually have their own rental insurance, so I never have to worry about it, and it saves me money. Now, I do want to mention you should definitely consider getting the travel health insurance and trip cancellation insurance, especially if your trip is going to be really expensive, because things happen, and if you've booked and paid for a hotel, and if you're in a situation where you can't refund it or whatever, you could be out thousands of dollars. And so it's going to be worth it, even though it is extra money, to maybe get the trip cancellation insurance. But here again, some travel credit cards actually cover that. So you're going to want to look into that. And the travel health insurance, this is just a no-brainer thing. If you're abroad, your health insurance here likely isn't going to cover something. And if you need to be evacuated to the United States or whatever it is, you don't want to be out of pocket for that. And this is a situation where paying a little extra probably does make sense. Number 4, be strategic with your hotel location choice. And primarily what I mean by this is it's usually going to pay to stay outside of the main tourist area. So, for example, if you're going to New York City, you don't have to stay in Times Square. In fact, I would discourage you from staying there. You could stay in Chelsea or the Village or something like that, and there's really, really cool neighborhoods. And if you need to go to Times Square, you can still go there. But you're going to save a lot of money being outside of the tourist area. You just want to find a place that's kind of right outside of it, so it's easily accessible. You might spend like half of what you would. And here's the deal. If you're traveling to a major city for tourism, how much time do you want to spend in your hotel anyway? Saving money on that hotel can mean the difference between being able to pay for extra experiences, right? And yeah, maybe you have to walk an extra 15 minutes. Big deal if, I saved $100 a night on a hotel. The other thing I would say, especially when you go abroad, you might look outside of the major chain hotels, because I find that they're often overpriced, maybe in Europe or even Asia. And so you really have to kind of do your homework there, but you can get pretty much the same experience, but, you might save, again, $100, $200 a night. And, staying in the Four Seasons is great and you have the money, then whatever. It doesn't really make a difference. But if you would rather save that money and pay for an experience, you're probably better off not choosing a major chain hotel. Number 5, this is related to the hotels. Don't eat in the main tourist areas or even the hotel restaurant usually. What I find is that in the major tourist areas, the food is almost always overpriced and it's generally mediocre. And, same thing with a lot of the hotel restaurants. If you travel abroad, most hotel restaurants aren't going to be very representative of the local food culture. And so you're going to get something that is pretty mediocre and very westernized. Maybe that's your thing, but if you travel abroad, I'm guessing you probably want to experience some of the local culture, and you're going to be wasting your money eating in these hotels. Another tip, especially if you do book at a more local hotel, they might charge an extra $20 a day to eat breakfast there. And so let's say you have 3 or 4 or 5 people in your family. This could be $60 to $100 extra per day for breakfast. And what I find is you can just find something close by the hotel that's simple, eat that. Maybe you spend $5 to $7 a person, pocket that money. And what we usually do is, after the day that we land, we book a food tour wherever we go. It's fantastic. You get a local guide and you get to try a variety of the foods. And then you have an idea of the kinds of foods that you might like or dislike here. And then when you go out and you venture on your own, you're going to have some familiarity and you're not going to be stuck just eating the safest stuff because you're worried about, oh, I might get something that I don't like. I always laugh. I'll watch these YouTubers that have travel channels, and there's this couple that I watch, and they go to fantastic places, but they always eat the lamest food because they never spring for one of these food tours. These guys, they were in China lately, and they're just eating the most awful Chinese food. They have no idea what they're doing, and they don't even know what it is they're eating, and they're just completely missed out on a really, really good food experience by not going and hiring a local company. And so what I'm hoping, like I said earlier, if you can save money in other ways, well, now you can book something like a food tour and you get more of an experience and you end up out of pocket the same that you would, but now you've had a much better time. Number 6, don't travel during peak season. And look, I get it. If you have kids, you might be stuck traveling during summer, but then you might want to rethink where you're going for your summer trip. I definitely wouldn't travel to Europe during the summer. Do you want to be in Rome or Paris where there's millions of other tourists? Everything is overpriced. And in Europe, they don't use air conditioning like they do in the US. It's just going to be sweltering, and it's just not a good experience. So instead, travel during April or October when the weather is a lot cooler and you're not going to be dealing with all the crowds and prices are a lot better. Number 7, don't exchange your money at the airport. A huge rookie mistake is going abroad and then exchanging all your money at the airport, where they're probably going to have a markup of about 10%. So you want to avoid this really at all costs, because that could be hundreds of dollars depending on how much cash that you're going to take out. What you should do is go to your local bank. You're probably going to be able to get a very favorable exchange rate with very minimal fees. Exchange what we usually do. I usually get $300 or $400 in cash, and I know that'll get me through whatever needs to happen in the first couple of days. If I had to pay for a cab ride or whatever in cash or some food, I've got the cash there. And then I usually use the travel credit cards that I have, because if it gets stolen or whatever else, I know that I'm covered and I don't want to carry around a lot of cash with me in a foreign country. Then I do bring an ATM card, and if I need cash, you'll find that in most countries you go to, you're going to be able to find an ATM and you'll be able to pull cash out. And even that is going to be cheaper than doing it at the airport. And finally, number 8, I know you've heard this many times, but avoid checking bags. My wife and I still fight about this. I think I finally kind of convinced her to come over to my side, but of course there is the aspect of you don't want to have to pay extra to check bags. But to me, this one's less about the extra cost of checking bags and more about the hassle of it. So number 1, airlines lose luggage all the time. Number 2, unless you're going to like a beach vacation in Florida and you're driving down there, a lot of times you're flying into a place, it's urban, you have to catch flights, and the last thing you want to have to do is lug around a bunch of baggage. It's a hassle. You might not even be able to get into a cab because your luggage doesn't fit. So what are you going to do then? No, now you have to get 2 taxis or something, and it's just a nightmare. Get travel packing cubes, roll your clothes up. There are ways you can actually fit quite a lot. I've traveled for 2 weeks before abroad with just a carry-on and a backpack, and I was able to get everything in there that I needed. And I know it's tempting to overpack because you're going, well, what if I need this or what if I need that? But here's the deal, and this is going to blow your mind, but they sell things almost anywhere that you go. So if you forgot your sunblock, you're going to be able to find that somewhere else. If you needed a towel or a light jacket, you'll be able to pick these things up. Beyond that, most hotels offer laundry services. So if you need to wash a few articles of clothing, you can do that. We actually bring little laundry detergent with us, and hey, if we need to wash a few shirts or some underwear, whatever, you can do that. Hang it in your shower. It will dry out overnight and you're going to be fine. And then we don't have to worry about having extra luggage. So that's it. I hope it was helpful. I post videos on retirement and investing every week. So if you like this, hit subscribe and you'll get my video next week. Take care.